When you were putting together the NBA YoungBoy documentary, you were getting death threats over that. From who exactly?
I could say all of the above. I received a message from Fredo Bang, a stern message from Fredo Bang. I took something out of the video at Fredo Bang's request. People see the title, and it's funny, right? Because I had people pissed off saying that he was a real killer and I'm a snitch. And I had people pissed off saying, you saying he's a fake gangster, he's a real gangster, he'll get at you. So it was like, I couldn't win, but again.
In hip-hop, we've seen a lot of wild situations, but this one right here has the entire community split down the middle. On December 3rd, 2025, British YouTuber Traplore Ross dropped a video claiming he found all 19 alleged cases connected to NBA YoungBoy.
If I told you NBA YoungBoy had 19 people killed, would you believe me?
We're talking about one of the biggest rappers in the game right now, someone who just finished grossing over $70 million on his Make America Slime Again tour. This situation involves Traplore Ross, NBA YoungBoy, fans sending real threats, and questions about where the line is between journalism and something else entirely. Here's what actually went down. This goes way deeper than what you saw on social media. Let me break down everything that happened, from the original 6-hour documentary back in 2023 to this new video that just dropped and why it's got everyone talking. Let's start from the beginning. To understand this, you gotta know who Traplore Ross is and why he keeps making these types of videos. Ross is a British content creator who's been building a whole career around deep dive documentaries on hip-hop figures. We're talking 6-hour, sometimes longer videos where he goes through lyrics, Reddit threads, court documents, everything.
I was so obsessed with hip-hop, like if you caught me at a house party, I'd be just in the corner trying to tell someone like you know this 50 Cent song, you know when he's saying this, like this, like I was just obsessed with this stuff and no one was really trying to hear it. And like my homie Ordinary Things, he was like, well, why don't you make some videos about this stuff you're always talking about, like that you're interested in? But he was like, I don't know, give it a go. And I did it, I gave it a go and it went off straight away, man. That Jay-Z one was the first video where it was just like...
Back in April 2023, Ross dropped a documentary on King Von that blew up. He went through every tweet, every lyric, connecting situations to the late Chicago rapper. That video got millions of views, but it also got him serious backlash. People accused him of using information to harm someone's legacy, of being a culture vulture, all types of criticism. Then, in September 2023, Ross turned his attention to NBA YoungBoy. He released a documentary titled Real Killer or Fake Gangster, running close to 6 hours long. Ross went deep into YoungBoy's come-up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, the whole TBG versus BBG situation, the Never Broke Again movement, everything. He examined multiple cases, talked about the feud with Lil Durk, the situation with King Von and Quando Rondo, and YoungBoy's legal problems. Before dropping that 2023 documentary, Ross admitted he was nervous, real nervous. NBA YoungBoy's fan base is known for being one of the most loyal and protective in hip-hop. Ross started getting threats before the video even went live. People were warning him not to release it, saying there would be consequences. According to Ross himself, rapper Fredo Bang reached out asking for certain things to be removed from the video.
I could say all of the above. I received a message from Fredo Bang, a stern message from Fredo Bang. I took something out of the video at Fredo Bang's request.
But Ross went ahead anyway. His whole argument was that he's just analyzing what's already public. If rappers talk about situations in their songs, if information is on Reddit, in court documents, in news reports, then he has the right to examine it as someone documenting hip-hop culture. That first documentary examined specific cases. Ross looked at the situations involving Boozilla, G-Money, Big Dump, and BLVD Quick. He connected lyrics to real events, used social media posts, looked at timelines. The whole thing was built on connecting dots that were already there in the public domain. Now we get to what just happened. On December 3rd, 2025, Traplore Ross posted a new video. This one wasn't 6 hours. It was under 2 hours, but it claimed something specific. Ross said he spent months going through everything and allegedly identified all 19 cases that YoungBoy has referenced in his music over the years. According to multiple sources covering this story, Ross went through numerous Reddit threads, song lyrics, and tried connecting specific cases to the rapper. The video allegedly names 19 different individuals. It starts with G-Money, also known as Garrett Burton, who was reportedly taken out in September 2017. Ross noted that YoungBoy and G-Money had fallen out when YoungBoy left TBG Records. These two had been going at each other through their music, throwing real shots. Here's where it gets interesting. In G-Money's track Industry, he mentioned YoungBoy's mother, his sister, and YoungBoy's late cousin Boozilla. Word was there was allegedly a $100,000 bounty on G-Money's head. A month after that track dropped, G-Money was gone.
Baton Rouge police are looking into a deadly shooting that claimed the life of a local rapper. Police say someone shot and killed 22-year-old Garrett Burton on Dallas Street around 1:20 last night. Burton performed under the name G Money. Right now, police have not named any suspects or motive. If you can help police or have any tips, you can report them anonymously to Crime Stoppers. That number 344-STOP. And remember, your tip could lead to a cash reward.
A lot of you are reacting tonight to the arrest of this man, DeAndre Fields. Baton Rouge police say they arrested him years after the shooting death of a local rapper, Garrett Burton. Back in 2017, Burton went by the name of G Money. He was found shot to death in the parking lot on Dallas Drive there. Police arrested DeAndre Fields for second-degree murder.
The second person Ross mentioned was reportedly 19-year-old Ernisha Barnes, who was taken out in October 2017. According to Ross's research, Barnes was allegedly connected to Hammer, someone from the TMH group. YoungBoy had ongoing problems with both Hammer and another TMH member. Ross then went down the list. He named BLVDD, Quick, Javen Brown, Gyron Bang, Louis Scooter Cryer, Jason Dutch Nixon, Cornell McDuffie, Michael Riley, Dante Dorsey, Clifton Lindsay, Frederick Freethrow Harris, Deontay Veal, TM Easy, 77 Hardaway, Sherwood Extendo, Jawan Dutt Alexi, Harley Ken, and Wilson. According to Ross, all these cases tie back to gang feuds in Baton Rouge and YoungBoy's lyrics that allegedly reference these situations. Now let me be clear about something. These are allegations. Ross is making connections based on lyrics, social media posts, Reddit discussions, and publicly available information. Nothing here has been proven in court. YoungBoy himself has never been convicted of these specific allegations that Ross is making in this video. The thing that caught everyone off guard was the number, 19. That's more than what people typically hear about, even in the most active street situations. Ross based his claims on YoungBoy's own lyrics, where the rapper has referenced having a certain number over the years. Social media went crazy immediately. Within hours of Ross posting that video, Twitter was a war zone. YoungBoy fans came out in full force defending their favorite artist. They accused Ross of trying to get YoungBoy locked up, of being irresponsible, of crossing a line that shouldn't be crossed. One Twitter user wrote that this is why they keep saying YoungBoy must be working with authorities, because there's no way someone could allegedly be connected to that many situations and not be facing charges. Another user pointed out that rappers tell on themselves through lyrics, Instagram live sessions, and tweets, so it's not hard for someone to connect the dots if they're looking. But that's not even the craziest part. Within a day of posting the video, Trap Lore Ross dropped another video defending himself. He clapped back at critics and called out what he sees as hypocrisy in how fans treat this information. In that response, Ross said something that got people talking even more. He pointed out that when King Von called YoungBoy's raps fake, YoungBoy's fans were the first ones saying their guy doesn't make things up in his lyrics. They argued that YoungBoy is the realist, that he's not putting on an act. Ross said fans want it both ways. They want to celebrate the authenticity of the lyrics, but get upset when someone takes those same lyrics seriously and tries to decode them. Ross continued, saying YoungBoy has been claiming specific numbers in his music for years. He feels like he's within his right as someone who studies hip-hop to discover and decipher what these lyrics are actually about. He called himself a hip-hopologist, someone documenting culture. The hip-hop media started picking up the story. Complex covered it. Primetimer wrote about it. Hot New Hip Hop reported on it. Each outlet had slightly different takes, but they all acknowledged that this situation was touching a nerve in the culture. Some people defended Ross. They said he's just doing journalism, that everything he's presenting is already public. If someone doesn't want their lyrics analyzed this way, maybe they shouldn't be so specific in what they say. Others argued that this crosses an ethical line, that Ross is potentially putting someone in danger by compiling all this information in one place, even if it's already out there. Now, this is when things really popped off. The debate started shifting from just Ross and YoungBoy to bigger questions about hip-hop journalism, about using lyrics as evidence, about where the responsibility lies. Within 24 hours, this video became one of the most talked about pieces of content in hip-hop. But the consequences went deeper than just online arguments. First, there's the threats. This isn't the first time Ross has dealt with this. Back when he made the King Von documentary, he got serious threats. People from O-Block, Von's neighborhood, were allegedly sending messages. With the YoungBoy situation, it's the same pattern. Ross has talked openly about receiving warnings before both documentaries dropped. Career-wise, this is making Ross one of the most controversial figures in hip-hop media. He's getting millions of views, but he's also becoming someone that a large portion of the community views negatively. There's a whole debate about whether whether he's a historian documenting culture or someone exploiting situations for clicks. The legal angle is interesting too. There's precedent for rap lyrics being used in court. Back in 1992, Mac Dre got sentenced to 5 years on conspiracy charges, and his song Punk Police was used as evidence. In recent years, we've seen prosecutors try to use lyrics against Young Thug, against Draco the Ruler before he passed, against multiple artists. But here's something important. In 2022, NBA YoungBoy went to court on federal charges, and his lyrics were thrown out. The judge dismissed them as evidence. YoungBoy walked away with a not guilty verdict, so there's no consistent legal standard for how lyrics should be treated. The relationship between Ross and the hip-hop community has definitely shifted. Some artists respect what he does, others won't talk to him. Radio shows and podcasts are split on whether to platform him or distance themselves. Public perception is divided clean down the middle. Younger fans, especially YoungBoy's core audience, see Ross as someone who shouldn't be trusted. Older heads and people more focused on documentation sometimes defend him as someone doing necessary work. But here's what most people missed in all this noise. There's a bigger conversation happening underneath the surface. Sources close to the situation have pointed out that Ross is operating in a gray area that didn't really exist 10 years ago. Before YouTube documentarians, before podcasts became this big, information like this stayed in the streets or in police files. Now you got someone from another country compiling it all, putting it in a video with millions of views, and calling it hip-hop history. This actually goes back to fundamental questions about drill music and street rap. When Chicago drill exploded in the early 2010s, it came with this same tension. Rappers were being incredibly specific in their lyrics, talking about real situations, naming real people. Media outlets were covering it, trying to explain the beef to audiences who didn't understand. But at what point does coverage become something else? There's millions of dollars involved here too. Ross makes money from these videos through YouTube ad revenue, potentially sponsorships, Patreon supporters. NBA YoungBoy makes money by being authentic in his music, by not backing down from his image. The incentive structure pushes both of them toward the exact dynamic we're seeing. The power dynamics in hip-hop are shifting. 10 years ago, if you wanted to learn about an artist's background, you relied on official interviews, magazine profiles, maybe some blog posts. Now anyone with time and internet access can compile information and present their own narrative. Artists have less control over their story. To understand why this matters, we gotta talk about the larger pattern. Ross has made similar documentaries about King Von, about UK drill artists, about gang situations in Sweden. Each time, he faces backlash. Each time, he defends his work the same way. Each time, the videos get millions of views. There's clearly an audience for this content, even if it makes people uncomfortable. So as of today, December 8th, 2025, here's where things stand. The video is still up. It's got hundreds of thousands of views, maybe over 1 million by now. Comments are going back and forth between people defending Ross and people criticizing him. NBA YoungBoy himself hasn't responded publicly. That's actually notable because YoungBoy usually isn't quiet when someone comes at him. Back in September 2023, when the first documentary dropped, there was allegedly a snippet of a new song where YoungBoy seemed to address the fake gangster question, but nothing direct calling out Ross by name. Just yesterday, Ross was still engaging with comments and critics on social media. He's not backing down from his position. In recent interviews, including one with Vlad TV from a few weeks ago, Ross has talked about other topics in hip-hop, showing he's continuing his work regardless of controversy. Word is that more documentaries are coming. Ross has built his whole channel around these deep dives, so this won't be his last controversial video. People are watching to see if he'll face any real consequences beyond online backlash, or if this just becomes part of his brand. The situation with YoungBoy's tour is interesting too. His Make America Slime Again tour just wrapped up in November 2025, grossing over $70 million. That's one of the highest grossing hip-hop tours in recent US history. So while all this controversy is happening, YoungBoy is at a career high financially and popularity-wise. He got pardoned by President Trump back in May 2025 after serving time, thanked the president on Instagram, and has been living at his Utah residence under heavy security. There's also the question of whether Ross will face any real-world consequences. After the King Von documentary, he talked about getting threats from people connected to O-Block. With this YoungBoy situation, YoungBoy's crew is known for being tight-knit and protective. Ross is in the UK, which provides some distance, but threats can travel. The hip-hop journalism community is divided. Some platforms won't cover his work anymore. Others, like Vlad TV and Complex, still interview him and report on what he does. This creates a weird situation where he's both mainstream enough to get covered by major outlets and controversial enough that many many people think he shouldn't have a platform. What started as one British YouTuber making a documentary has turned into something that's changing how we think about hip-hop journalism, about drill music, about the relationship between art and real life. This shows you how the internet has completely transformed hip-hop documentation. 20 years ago, this type of detailed analysis would maybe exist in some underground true crime book or a local documentary that 5 people saw. Now it's on YouTube, algorithm recommended, getting pushed to millions of people worldwide. It also shows the tension in drill music and street rap. Artists build their careers on authenticity, on being real, on not making things up. Fans celebrate that authenticity. But when someone takes that seriously and starts documenting it, suddenly it becomes a problem. There's no easy answer to that contradiction. The legal implications are real too. Even if YoungBoy's lyrics were thrown out in his 2022 case, videos like Ross's create a compiled narrative that could potentially be referenced in future situations. Prosecutors are always looking for ways to build cases, and having someone organize information like this makes their job easier. But there's also an argument that this information was always going to be public. Reddit threads existed before Ross made his videos. Local news covered some of these situations. People in Baton Rouge knew the stories. Ross just centralized it and presented it to a wider audience. Does that make it worse, or is it just making visible what was always there? The fan response shows how protective hip-hop audiences are of their favorite artists. YoungBoy fans aren't just casual listeners. They're devoted. They follow every release. They defend him against any criticism. That loyalty is powerful, but it also creates echo chambers where legitimate questions can't be asked without facing backlash. Looking forward, this situation is probably going to influence how other content creators approach similar topics. Some might be more careful, not wanting to deal with the threats and controversy. Others might see Ross's success and view count and decide the controversy is worth it. Keep your eyes on a few things. First, see if YoungBoy ever directly responds. A diss track, an interview, something acknowledging this exists. Second, watch if any legal action comes from this, either from YoungBoy's team trying to get videos taken down or from authorities potentially using this compiled information. Third, see how other documentarians and journalists handle similar topics going forward. The precedent being set here matters. If Ross can make these videos without major consequences beyond social media backlash, others will follow. If there's real pushback that affects his ability to make content or his safety, it might discourage this type of work. This also affects how artists might approach their lyrics going forward. If you know someone's going to spend months analyzing every bar, connecting dots, building timelines, does that change what you say? Or does the authenticity that audiences demand mean you can't change your approach even if you wanted to? Now let's talk about what this situation reveals about where hip-hop is right now. This isn't just about one YouTuber and one rapper. This is about a shift that's been happening for years, and we're finally seeing the consequences play out in real time. The drill movement that started in Chicago around 2010-2012 changed everything. Before that, rappers might hint at situations, use metaphors, keep things somewhat vague. Chief Keef, Lil Durk, King Von, they brought a new level of specificity. They named blocks, mentioned specific people, gave dates and details. That authenticity is what made drill so compelling, but it also created this whole new problem. UK drill took it even further. Artists over there were getting literal gang injunctions, court orders saying they couldn't make certain types of music or mention certain areas. The authorities were treating lyrics as direct evidence of gang activity. Ross, being from the UK, comes from that environment where the line between rap and reality got blurred completely. Now you got artists in Baton Rouge, in Jacksonville, in Detroit, all following that same blueprint. NBA YoungBoy came up in that era. His music has always been incredibly direct. When he talks about situations, he's not hiding behind metaphors. That's part of why his fans connect with him so deeply. They feel like they're getting the real story, unfiltered. But here's the thing nobody wants to address directly. The hip-hop industry profits from this authenticity. Record labels sign artists specifically because they have real street credibility. Streaming platforms push drill music because it gets plays. Media outlets cover beefs because they get clicks. Everyone's making money off this content, but when someone like Ross actually documents what's being said, suddenly there's outrage. Think about how this plays out. An artist releases a song with specific details. It goes on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. Millions stream it. Genius breaks down the lyrics. Fans discuss it on Reddit and Twitter. The artist does interviews where they're asked about the situations in their music. All of that is accepted, even celebrated. But when Ross compiles all that information into one documentary, that's where people draw the line. The logic doesn't fully add up. There's also the international angle that makes this more complicated. Ross is British. He's making content about American street situations from thousands of miles away. LA. That distance creates a different dynamic than if someone from Baton Rouge was making these videos. There's a feeling in the community that he doesn't have the right to speak on these situations because he's not from that environment, hasn't lived that life, doesn't understand the real consequences. The money aspect runs even deeper than just ad revenue. Ross has built an entire brand around these controversial documentaries. His subscriber count grows every time he drops one of these videos. He's got Patreon supporters paying monthly. The controversy itself becomes marketing. Even people who hate what he does end up watching just to see what he said, and that view counts the same as someone who supports him. On the flip side, YoungBoy benefits from his image too. His whole brand is built on being authentic, being someone who really lived what he raps about. That image is worth millions. It's why his tour just did those numbers. It's why every release debuts with huge streaming numbers. The streets respect him because they believe the music is real. If it turned out that he was making things up, his whole career would take a hit. So you got this situation where both sides have financial incentives to maintain their current positions. Ross keeps making controversial content because it works for his channel. YoungBoy keeps being specific in his lyrics because that authenticity is his brand. Neither one can really back down without undermining what they've built. The younger generation is watching all this too. Kids who are 15, 16 years old right now, aspiring rappers, they're seeing how this plays out. They're learning that being specific in your lyrics gets you respect and streams. But it also means everything you say will be documented and potentially used against you. That's a different calculation than what artists faced even 10 years ago. There's also the question of responsibility. Does Ross have a responsibility to consider the potential consequences of his videos? Does YoungBoy have a responsibility to think about how his lyrics might be used? Do platforms like YouTube have a responsibility to moderate this type of content? These aren't easy questions, and different people have different answers based on their values and perspective. The community response shows how divided hip-hop is right now. Older heads who remember when hip-hop was more metaphorical, more focused on wordplay and creativity, they sometimes see drill and street rap as a step backward. Younger fans who grew up with drill see it as the most authentic form of hip-hop that's ever existed. Ross's documentaries force that divide into the open. One thing's for sure, the conversation about where journalism ends and something else begins isn't going away. As hip-hop becomes more documented, more analyzed, more centralized on platforms like YouTube, these tensions will keep coming up. Every controversial documentary, every deep dive into an artist's past, every attempt to decode lyrics will spark the same debates we're seeing now. So that's where we're at with this whole situation. Traplore Ross made a video claiming to have identified 19 alleged cases connected to NBA YoungBoy based on lyrics and public information. Fans are furious, calling it irresponsible and dangerous. Ross is defending himself, saying he's just documenting what's already public. YoungBoy hasn't responded. The video is still up and getting views. The debate continues. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. Is Ross crossing a line, or is he just doing journalism? Should artists who talk about real situations in their lyrics be upset when someone takes them at their word? Where's the line between documenting hip-hop culture and potentially causing harm? Drop your thoughts below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because more updates are coming as this develops. This situation isn't over, and I'll be covering every twist as it happens. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.